All right, so I stopped at the one of the Republican offices. Republican offices around here are new. There really has never been any Republican offices in Milwaukee County that I ever remember. There's one somewhere far out towards the edge of the county, but definitely nothing in the city. And I stopped at one of these new offices a couple of months ago because I wanted to see who was running for the local stuff. You know, from alderman up to state Congress. Our state Senate isn't up this year, but state Congress, there's a couple of seats that are up. And one of the wonderful things about being wanting to meet or learn about a Republican candidate in an area like this is that they got a lot of time on their hands because, you know, they have not had much of a presence. Most of the time when I go to the local polls, at least half of the positions that are being filled, from city treasurer, comptroller, up to mayor, not governor, but up to mayor, sometimes there's just no opposition. There's nobody else to vote for. A very, very far out third-party candidate that you've never even heard of, but a lot of times it's Democrat or write-in. There's not even a second choice, except for someone you nominate. So I went there because I wanted to meet these candidates. I voted for our Democrat Congresswoman, Gwen Moore, twice. The first time she ran, the second time I might have voted independent, and the third time she ran. So I voted for 2 out of the 3 times that she ran, and one of the reasons that I voted for her in the beginning was that, you know, she was a from the people candidate. You know, this goes against my personal politics. But see, I'm like that. I will vote against some of my own interests when I think it's better for the greater good. So the original reason that I wanted to see her get elected way back, however far long ago it was, around 20 years ago, was because I thought that she might bring something new to the community that the community hadn't had yet. Well, now I'm on the new guy that's running against her. We finally have a strong Republican candidate, so I went there to meet him, and he was very interesting, and I am going to do my best to get an interview with him. Now, this is obviously a more local interest kind of thing. However, if you're following anything across the country and you're seeing somebody like Kimberly Klacik, who's running in Baltimore, even though that is a local thing, there's a lot of national attention to it because of how she's running her platform and because of the things that she's saying. And I see him as the same kind of candidate from Milwaukee. He has some ideas that we just haven't ever tried. That I think he's got one in particular. I'm gonna let him tell you about it. But I went back to the office today to see if I could find him. He wasn't there at the moment. He is very good about taking time, so I'm sure that when he's around, he will give me some time. But while I was there, there's a map on the wall of Milwaukee and how each district went in the 2016 election. So I talked to the person who created that map and got a little bit of insight into that, just for some further answers to which way is Wisconsin going to go. So here's my interview with him, and that's it from me.
So this map is the map of Milwaukee County, and this is our fourth, the green part of this map is our 4th Congressional District, which Democrat Congresswoman Gwen Moore has control of. And it also has numbers.
How many years has Gwen Moore been in there?
Gwen Moore has been in office for about, well, as long as I've been alive. I mean, I'm 19, so you could just do the math there.
So that's 3 terms, 3+ terms?
3, almost 4 terms there with her in office. And the numbers, if you see here on the map, are number of votes in certain areas that she got in 2016. Over time, they have dwindled, but obviously these areas that are sectioned off and have the numbers are not the amount of people that actually live there. Those are just the people that voted for her. So there's people that voted for a Republican candidate and for President Trump, and also there's people that just didn't go and vote. So throughout here, you can see we have red stars kind of around the areas. These are our Republican headquarters within Milwaukee County. So this is our North Shore office, which is the Trump Victory office. This is the office that we're in right now, which is the Republican Party office on MLK Drive, which is also dedicated to the African American community, the Black Voices for Trump. And then this is our Latinos for Trump office on 2nd and Mitchell. Over on 108th Street over here is our West Dallas office. And then this is our Franklin office over here. We also have an office in Waukesha, Germantown area outside of Milwaukee County.
Just Waukesha County for.
And then one down in Racine, and then another in Kenosha. Everyone knows Kenosha because of the riots that were going on down there. We have little districts that are sectioned in green and then outlined in black. This is the 17th, the 6th, the 19th, the 9th. These are state assembly districts. This is a state senate district, but we have good assembly candidates running for these positions from the Republican Party. The blue lines, as you can see throughout the map, those represent the Democrat stronghold and things that Hillary Clinton won back in 2016. Now, there are some areas like West Dallas, West Milwaukee area, that is big red lines, small blue lines. That means that went to President Trump, but it was close to going to Hillary Clinton. So that's here in West Dallas, Greenfield, and Greendale. And then over here in Cudahy and South Milwaukee, which is right on the lake, those are big blue lines, small red lines. That went to Hillary Clinton, but almost went to President Trump, which are two areas that I'm trying to focus on myself, just trying to see if we can flip. With the president having more policies, we'll probably have a better chance at flipping those since he has a lot more support. Obviously, we have a candidate running in this whole 4th Congressional District. It's, of course, an uphill battle against someone who's been in politics for a long time. His name is Tim Rogers. Hopefully, he can pull it off. He's one of the 30 African Americans running as a Republican in our in congressional races. So that's a great achievement for the Republican Party, especially since the Republican Party was the party who freed the slaves and got the first black congressman and first black senator actually involved in politics, which is a great, wonderful achievement that we truly tout and appreciate and try to teach people about, but is overshadowed because the Democrats manipulate the way history is being taught within the education system. But this is the map I did. It's going to be very interesting what every numbers look like. I didn't even do the numbers for Milwaukee, or just the city of Milwaukee itself.
Show everybody what the city actually is. Just, remember, a lot of people who don't live here are going to, probably more people nationally than locally, at least at first.
So this area right here, this is our bay view starting to go into the city. This area right here where my hand is pretty much downtown, just kind of the outskirts of the city, where more businesses are starting to pop up, factories. And then down here you start getting outside of the city and more into the smaller towns.
Yeah, it's interesting how Milwaukee's designed with little pockets that are almost like suburbs, but they're still part of the city. I've always found, I don't know how many other major cities are like that, but I think that's kind of unique.
Yeah, Milwaukee is one of those unique cities. We're one of those cities that aren't like a huge major city like Chicago or New York, but we're still a big enough city to, especially back in our day when we were at our prime and we weren't failing as a city, we were able to have great trade, and our ports were just always filled with boats and ships. Our railroads were sending out stuff to different states and stuff around the world. We have our own airport down in the South Milwaukee, Cudahy area, in Milwaukee County. So yeah, we have very small pockets that are still part of the major city or the main city, but you have more on the north side. That's where the African American population is at, and a lot more of the Latino population is on the south side over in the 9th district area. And same thing with West Dallas, Milwaukee. We get more out this way. It's a little mixed. So just here and there's just different groups of people, different cultures. So it's really a melting pot.
Let me throw something out here real quick. I'm looking at the Wauwatosa block, because Wauwatosa, I went through there today, and there are a lot of signs that are very hostile toward Trump. And I also see it's a very significantly blue area from this last 2016 thing that you're getting these numbers from. Is it unique that Wauwatosa had a shooting the way that it did, where it was a black officer involved. And it's also unique that they are the first city of all these cities to actually crack down, because once the curfew stopped and the protest continued and the guard was gone, the police just said, no, we're not having this. You can stay on the sidewalk, do whatever you want, but you're not even going to impede traffic, and you're certainly not going to do any of these other things we've seen everywhere else. So what do you think, how does that happen in a city that's so blue?
I think, well, for the protesters, they really don't, especially the rioters. I mean, there's peaceful protests out there, but the rioters, a lot of these people are opportunists looking just to cause chaos and go destroy stuff for no apparent reason. They ruin whatever message they have, and they would attack even their own people who agree with them, people that may vote for someone like Joe Biden or someone who votes Democrat all their life, and they agree with these protests. The protesters and rioters aren't going to care what sign you have. They're out there to cause chaos. But actually, we had a great gentleman by the name of Paris Procopis, who is a strong conservative, a great voice in our local community out in the Wauwatosa area. He wrote a wonderful, amazing article about the leadership and how incompetent it was, especially a certain alderwoman, and how she handled the riots. And
Is that the one that resigned when they found out she had a fake Twitter account?
I believe so. I don't know if that's why she resigned over it, but the article also, I believe, it was the straw that broke the camel's back to get her to resign. So people are sick and tired of seeing all this stuff. It's going to be interesting what Wauwatosa looks like in 2016. It might stay just that same blue, or we might end up having it more like a Cudahy or South Milwaukee, where it's still blue, but there's a lot more Republicans out there that are waking up, or people who switch parties.
I remember when I first saw this map and we looked at some of these populations, especially like the North Shore up there, and with the votes that were up there, and I was like, well, let's see what the population total is, and those were pretty close to half. All those numbers that you have on this map were pretty close. Most of them were pretty close to half of what the total potential voting population was. So Tim Rogers is running to cover this entire thing. He's for Congress, running against Gwen Moore. Mm-hmm. So first question, how do you think this, with the data you have from this map and what you've seen, how much of a chance does he have? Platform wise, I think he's great. Right. But
Tim, from what I could see, he has a way of resonating his message with the average person, the average voter, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat. And he's been pulling a lot of supporters for Gwen Moore over to his side. That boosts your chance at actually unseating Gwen Moore, especially if everyone's getting sick and tired of her running. His main issue that he's going to have are places like Bayview, because that is really blue there. Anytime I go through just Lake Drive along the lake, Biden signs everywhere. I saw at least 2 of his signs, but he's targeting areas like Brown Deer, Bayside. If he gets a lot of support in Bayside, more than 1,617 votes, that'd be really amazing. Even here, this is West Milwaukee, small area. Only 965 votes went to Gwen Moore in that area. If he works with a lot of our local candidates that are running for state assembly, like Veronica Diaz in the 9th, or AB in the 17th, or Helmut Fritz in the 19th.
All good people who I've met, by the way. They're all very good, personable, and they spend time to talk to somebody if they say they want to talk to them.
Exactly. So if they take their time if he takes his time and actually gets involved and goes door to door, he has a strong chance of winning. But like I said, he could be the David to her Goliath, which they say Goliath is unbeatable, but it happened. Obviously, River Hills is outside of the district, but everything in green is what Tim has. And I saw just the other day, 2 days ago, or the past 2 days, in Cudahy and South Milwaukee, more and more of his signs are starting to pop up here and there in kind of strategic locations, one on every other block here and there, so people know who he is. Oh, there's Tim Rogers. I got to look this guy up. What's he running for? Same thing with Trump signs. A lot more Trump signs are starting to pop up everywhere around areas that you wouldn't even think they would be. Even in Bayview, I saw a few Trump signs here and there, and those are some brave people.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Bayview or River West, that's pretty brave to be putting those signs up. You're really opening yourself up for something. Okay, last question in relation to this. How would you because everybody, of course, wants to know how the swing states are going to go. Since we have an inside look at Wisconsin, as we're right here, what's your opinion on Wisconsin? How does he win it? How does he lose it?
The only way that we would lose Wisconsin is if we lose every county outside of Milwaukee County. Obviously, Milwaukee County and Dane County, which is Madison, where the capital is, that's going to go to Joe Biden because that's where strong Democrat support is. Every other city or county outside of those two counties, except for some areas up north, they'll probably go to President Trump. Like I said earlier, with his policies now, he's become a lot more popular. He is a populist, which is really good for him to gain more momentum and more supporters. If you look outside just this green area, every other location around Milwaukee County is red, or at least goes towards being red, except for Waukesha, or Wauwatosa, my bad. Waukesha is very red. As long as he keeps coming to Wisconsin and sending his people to Wisconsin and he has 5 offices just in this area alone. There's offices around the entire state.
2 or 3 of them are new in the last year, right?
Exactly.
This one, the one on the south side, and one of the other ones.
And even Franklin, too.
Right.
That's a new one. And same with North Shore. That wasn't there
So
before.
4 of the 5 are new.
4 of the 5 are new. And we have staff everywhere. We're always targeting different locations, going door to door. We're working with local conservative groups. So we have a strong ground game that Joe Biden does not have. And he hasn't had. It took him 670 days to come to Wisconsin. So for someone who thinks that they're going to win Wisconsin, it takes them that long to finally come, you're not going to win the state. Especially when the president having rallies. He just had a rally in Janesville a couple days ago, and it was huge. It was huge. Very impressive.
I saw it on Twitter because everybody was calling it a super spreader event. And then when people were saying there's a crowd just as large in Washington, D.C. right now, and I saw pictures of that crowd, not any particular amount of masks there, silence. Of course.
So with the ground game and the ads, and he has billboards in places that you wouldn't even think. He has billboards on the south side of Milwaukee, which is a big Latino population. People think that he hates Hispanics. He doesn't. I'm one of them. I've met his son. Clearly, there's
Which one?
Eric. I met
Eric?
Eric. One of the nicest people I've ever met. Just down to earth, just like you and me sitting here having a conversation. You wouldn't even think they were rich. Came to our South Side office opening. He didn't have to do that, but he did it because they care about us and they care about making this country great again. That just kind of shows what the ground game looks like here in Milwaukee County alone. You can imagine what it looks like around the state. We continue to reach out to people and they start to wake up. They'll realize, wow, Democrats have done nothing for me especially in the city of Milwaukee, the past 18 years. All they did was build a trolley. So
Oh, don't get me started on that.
If Trump wins all the counties and they're red, with the exception of Milwaukee, Dane, and a few others, he'll win the state.
Which is why it's more critical for him to win areas like this, because they carry more weight than other areas.
It could, but this has a certain number of votes. If you were able to win other areas, that would add up eventually to actually gain more votes to outweigh an area like this or Dane County.
Pick your winner for Wisconsin then.
President Trump will definitely take Wisconsin in 2020.
Okay.
November 3rd.
Just for fun, pick your winner in Michigan.
President Trump.
Really?
He won Michigan back in 2016. Now that, like I said, we have to look at his policies. His policies have really gained a lot more people who were former Democrats. I just talked to 2 Democrats at Walmart yesterday for 45 minutes. and that was in South Milwaukee. They moved out of Milwaukee to South Milwaukee, and they said, yeah, we're all on board with President Trump. We love him, especially since the Democrat Party left him. And that's, you have the groups like the Walkaway Movement. People in Michigan are sick and tired of Governor Whitmore and her policies.
Yeah.
Like I said, with the policies he has a good chance of retaking Michigan. State politics are a little bit different than federal politics. That's where, same thing with here in Wisconsin. He took Wisconsin back in 2016, but we got a new Democrat governor. So it's state politics a little bit different than national politics, especially if state politics, not everyone gets out to vote. And that's what happened, unfortunately, here in Wisconsin. But I won't go into any more detail.
Yeah, they actually have enough signatures to start a recall on Evers, I saw.
I won't go into detail.
No, I have no opinion on it. I'm just telling you that's what I saw.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Which just means there'll be another election. He'll have to run again, just like Walker did. So.
Yep. But those are my predictions. We have a good chance of flipping even Minnesota. We have a really good ground game.
They stopped talking about Minnesota as a battleground state. Why is that?
I'm not sure.
Or as a swing state. What they stopped? They were talking about it for a while, and it just stopped being mentioned.
I think they feel after Ilhan Omar won, they feel like, well, it won't go to President Trump if someone like her won, but she's in Congress. That's just one part of the state. That's not the entire state. As long as we keep up the ground game that we are having there in Minnesota, we have a good chance at flipping it. Same thing with other states, even Colorado. If we keep up the support, we might not win it, but as long as our ground game is good and we know how to talk to the voters and help them understand the wonderful policies the administration has passed, then they will come around to joining our side and vote for the president. But that's pretty much it.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.